So it's a little after 1 o'clock, just about 1 o'clock here on the East Coast. So I'll get started with a brief introduction and then I'll let Stefan take it from there. So, as you, I'm guessing, are aware, Stefan Jungmichel is with us today. He's going to be giving us some ideas and thoughts based at least partly on his book, What Christians Should Know About AI. Um, I've gotten started in the book. Unfortunately, haven't been able to make it the whole way through yet, but I'm finding some interesting topics there, and I think it's going to help motivate me today to continue reading through and finish off the book. Stefan is from the AI lab at Biola University, and so his work is at the intersection of faith and AI, large language models, and those kinds of things. And I think he has some great things to share with us today. So I'll turn it over to Stefan and just say, by way of thank you for joining us from the International Christian Statisticians. Several of my fellow board members are here today as well. I'm the vice chair and kind of hosting. For those who are arriving a little bit later, you may send questions in through the chat for me early on. And then at the end, Stefan does have some time for question and answers planned at the end as well. So Stefan, why don't you take it away?
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's wonderful getting to know you guys and working with you guys and exploring AI together. Yeah, my name is Stefan, as he just said, and today we are gonna do a bunch of things. It's basically three different sections. The first section is a showcase because everyone is always talking about AI ethics and how we implement it into our Christian understanding. But nobody really shows it. And I think it becomes a lot more clear on what AI is capable of doing, especially since it's literally changing week by week at this point, on what ethics actually need to be applied. And then the second part, we're gonna talk about some ethics and how you can implement that, and then we're gonna have a Q&A. The ethics part is how you can implement that. Well, there's a lot to talk about it. I think the most important thing is just being aware of lots of stuff at this point. So usually we start with awareness and then we can go from there. So a little bit about the iLab at Biola, just that you guys know what we are doing, and maybe that's something that you guys are interested in launching as well at maybe the universities or institutions you guys are working at. It has been very, very helpful for us. So what the iLab is, it's basically a hub for students, faculty, and staff to come in, learn about AI, have questions, ask, discuss. We do lots of things, thought leadership, for example. So we published a book, What Christians Should Know About AI. We also published some articles. You can find them on our website, ailab@biola.edu. And then we also build software. So we utilize AI to build software for internal departments. So we're basically the AI slash software development hub within campus. So it's not like IT where we give out hardware. We are rather more the innovative incubator hub. And we also do external projects. So, for example, working with you guys, workshops, seminaries, building AI automations, yeah, and thinking about it. So here's our team, just that you guys have some faces. Mostly students. We also participated in the Glue AI hackathon, where we were blessed to get awards. And yeah, so what makes us different, and that's the last point. After that, we go into the mind-blowing part, I guess, is that most AI labs actually start in the AI technology layer. So they ask themselves, what can AI do and what can we achieve? What functionalities can we implement? And what we are doing is we actually start with the AI ethics, going from, okay, like what biases could be in there? What's the ownership? So basically the ethical questions first before we start, what can we do? Before we start asking what can we do, we ask ourselves, what should we do? So this is basically the fundamental layer before we start any AI development. And yeah, so going to the showcase, let's start. So usually when I do this showcase, it always goes from the least mind-blowing of what some people might already know, usually in step 2 or 3, most people already don't know anymore, to very, very, very mind-blowing. Basically the whole science fiction stuff that people were talking about 20 or 30 years ago. A lot of that stuff is happening right now and is actually getting implemented. So my favorite tool is Cloud AI. There are many tools that I like. ChatGPT, I don't use as much anymore. The main reason for that is that ethically and from a leadership perspective, I don't really trust them. They just haven't been necessarily too communicative on how they're doing things. Cloud AI is at least their marketing is pushing forward with ethical use. And it is also the best model, in my opinion. So you can use AI in many forms. You probably have used it for much already, but you can just start researching. Personally, for me, I don't type as much anymore. What I use is either this little button, but sometimes that fails on me. You can also use a dictating button on your laptop. Personally, I use Whisper. And what you can do with Whisper is you can just dictate into any word field. And it also automatically saves it. So let's say if I do, hey, can you go ahead and do a little bit of research in the web about what Christian organizations are doing in AI and how they analyze their data? Give me links to it, perhaps articles that give me some insights. Search the web. So you can already see that I have searched the web in my prompt. And the reason for that is there are 3 different ways of how you can prompt. I explain later what I just did. So this is extended thinking. I'll explain it to you in a second. So there are 3 different ways of how AI can search a database. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna check in the chat, like who of you guys is aware of how AI is actually built and how it's trained, like how it works with the data and all of that? If you do, then maybe just raise your hand. Okay, most of you guys don't even have a picture on. Okay, so let me explain it a little bit. So there are 3 different ways of how a search request can be done, and that correlates with how an AI is built. The first search request is just saying, hey, what are AI labs doing? And you wouldn't say search the web. You wouldn't say give me the most recent information. You just say what are AI labs doing in the Christian space? And what it would do is it would take the data that it was trained on in, let's say, April 2025, and it would just query that database and give you an answer based on that. So how an AI is trained is it's just a bunch of data. They basically scrape the entire internet without asking anyone. That's actually called the original sin of AI, because nobody was asked, nobody was credited, there were no licenses, they just scraped everything could scrape, put it through a bunch of GPUs. The GPUs created a neural network, and the neural network is now what the AI is always referring to. So the AI is not referring to a huge data set of text, then the AI is referring back to a neural network, and the information are there stored in weights. So it goes a little bit off the scope of explaining that, but it's very interesting. That's why it's so quick. So that's the first search. It can only search what it was trained on. If you say search the web, then it will actually go ahead and do a search request in the web. And this is how you get the most up-to-date data. And then the third one is what I'm going to show you in a second. So you have now a bunch of responses, right? And how can you actually make sure that those responses are true or not? Well, it's actually pretty simple. What you can do is you can always use AI to verify AI. That's the cool thing of having something that is deemed to be intelligent. So you can take it and then you can say, hey, this is an interesting point. Can you please go ahead and find me like the exact quote in the article of where you found this data point? So what you can see is that I'm basically just asking for an exact data point within the quote. And once I have the okay, so what's it saying? So it just fetched it. Yeah. So what it's doing now is that it's basically checking for the exact quote. And once we have the quote, we can go into the source and verify it. So here's the quote. And now let's go back into the source, which was here. So you can see that after every response, there's a source little button you can just click on. And so here we go. So what you do now is you take the quote and you just search for the quote. And what you can see is that the quote doesn't come up. That's an issue. Sometimes it's just a little bit of formatting because of different points setting also on. So in this case, it doesn't find it. And now you should be a little bit more critical on if this is actually correct or not. So you could go again and say, hey, I don't find the quote in the source or website that you gave me. Can you check the source again? Here's the source, and make sure that you give me the exact quote. All right. In PDF documents, so this usually works. If you use PDF documents, it basically always works 99% of the time. Sometimes when it's searching web pages, there's a drop-down menu, and if you don't open up that drop-down menu, then perhaps it can't find it. when it comes to hallucination, it's usually pretty good. So yeah, this is how you would do it. I'm not going to go through this entire thing because we don't have too much like time to spend on one topic. This is the second way of how you can do a search request. If you do the third way, then you would do something like a deep research request. And how that works is you can just go ahead and say, hey, can you do some extensive research on how Christian organizations are utilizing AI when it comes to data analysis? So it's very similar search request, but what we can do now is we can go ahead and click research. And what that does, it basically simulates what a research assistant would do. It goes through hundreds and hundreds of sources and creates you an entire research document based on that question. So what AI is actually going to do now is not just going to go ahead and find the research for you. It's actually setting up a research plan first. So you can see here that it's setting up an AI agent in this case that creates you a research plan, and then you can modify the research plan, and then it goes ahead and actually does it. This is going to take a while, like 10 to 20 minutes. If you want to see how it looks in real time, then you can just go to Gemini.app, which is just Google's AI, and you can do exactly the same thing. It's just a little faster, which means it's less extensive. So if I do the same prompt and I click on deep research and I submit it, and then you will see what Claude AI is currently doing in the background. So here's your research plan, or at least the reasoning tokens. So here's the idea that it has to do. You can edit the plan, you can read through it, and then you just click start research. And once that happened, it will go ahead and show you the research process. We can come back later to that. Again, it's going to take some time. Here, you can actually see that Claude already gathered 100 different sources and is synthesizing all of that data into a research report, so 180 sources. And now you can really see how incredibly effective AI is when it comes to scaling. I mean, it's adding 50 sources every 10 seconds. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And again, what I'm showing you right now is the least exciting part of how you can use AI. All right, so let's say you used AI and you found a bunch of sources and you want to collect that in one space where you can always have access to it. So it's already at 400 sources. There's something called Notebook LM. And what you can do here is you can, instead of giving it into a model that also pulls from the web, you can use Notebook LM to use websites or YouTube links of information that you would like to use or that you would like to store somewhere, or PDFs, and you can create a notebook. And whenever you ask a question to that notebook, it will not pull from the web. It will only pull from the sources that you gave it. So this is how can you significantly reduce hallucinations. So let's say I want to build a new notebook. You just click on it, and then you can add different sources. So for example, I can add a spreadsheet. So here's a spreadsheet. I can go ahead and add a website. Let's say this is the website. You're basically creating your own database. So here's a website. I can just add that. You can also pull from your YouTube. You can pull from a Google Drive, or you can just copy paste the text in here. And now, after you put all of this data in here, you can create multiple different assets. So let me just go to, it takes a little bit of time. That's why I'm going to show you some pre-generated assets. Actually, let me check if I shared my sound. So I'm just going to disconnect my screen sharing and okay. Yeah, I think I shared my sound. So the first thing that you can do is you can generate a podcast. And here is a podcast. Could you please like raise your hand, or someone who is in the, like I can see the picture video, if you can hear that.
Difficult email or a big report for work.
Or for students, the dreaded essay.
Exactly. That essay, it feels heavy. It causes real anxiety. So you open up the chatbot, you type in a prompt, and poof, the weight is just gone.
So this entire podcast is completely AI generated, right? So the voices aren't real. The script is generated by AI. The I mean, everything. So it's not real. You can top that. You can literally have an entire video created, and this is something really new. That's why it's really crazy to stay up to date with all of this because it's basically changing weekly now. But here is a video that explains. I'm checking for it right now. Okay, so here's a video that is also completely generated by AI. So the images are generated, the script is generated, the voiceover. It's just incredible that one click of a button can generate you entire assets at this point. So
let's be real. AI assistants like ChatGPT are absolutely everywhere now. We're using them for everything, writing emails, figuring out code, planning our vacations, you name it.
You can see that it's using different images based on the material. So the material that we gave it here is a study. I'm going to talk about this later on how AI is affecting our brainwave activity. And you can see here that it talks about 3 different groups, and all of this is completely correct. And now think about how much time we used to spend on creating those assets. Obviously, that also comes with a disadvantage that designers might be in jeopardy, perhaps, when AI can generate all of those things for, like, this is literally for free. And I mean, this graphic would have cost, I don't know, $100, maybe $500, $400 back then. So yeah, so it's a big shift, and it's changing very rapidly. So there's more what it can generate. It can also generate your entire slide decks. For example, here is a slide deck it generated. And maybe you would like to have a little bit more editing capabilities because it is rough to edit those images. But what you can do is maybe it generated something for you that you really like. And then, for example, this graphic here. So what you can do is you can just take a screenshot of that and put it into your own presentation. So here it just generated you an asset. So this is how I would use it. But soon, PowerPoint presentations are also going to be probably mostly generated by AI. It can also generate your entire infographics. So here's one that summarizes the content of everything that is shared within the database. So yeah, again, think back how hard it is to generate any graphic that looks good, not even talking about a graphic that looks that good. All right. So now, since we are all data-driven people in this chat, I wanted to check out how AI can be used for data analysis. And it can be used in many ways. The first way is you can just have it analyze your data. So Claude has a very good coding engine. It's running on Claude. Well, it depends on the model that you choose. But in this case, it's either Opus 4.6, which is a little bit more compute heavy. Usually, if you put more compute power into your response, it costs you more, but you also get a better result. It's similar to your brain, right? If it uses more energy, then you could assume that it comes up with a better answer, not taken for account what the spiritual aspect is, which we don't have in AI. So yeah, different models. In this case, we're just going to go with Sonnet 4.6 because it's a little faster than Opus. And what we do is we take the spreadsheet. What the spreadsheet is about is it's basically feedback data. So you have a name column, you have an address column, you have feedback about dinner. So what they liked about it. So it's basically just a dinner feedback form, asking people what they liked about it, if they would attend again. And we want to use AI now to find correlations on, okay, is the topic more important or is the food more important for them to come again? And how we do that is very simple. We just take the spreadsheet, we put it in here, and then we give it a prompt. It could be generic, it could be specific. In this case, we're just going to say, hey, can you please go ahead and analyze the spreadsheet? Can you find correlations between the likelihood of reattendance of attendees based on let's say, like any data points that are given in the spreadsheet, for example, the quality of food or the quality of conversations, maybe the presentation or the space. So whatever correlations you can find that would help me as a event planner to do better events and have more retention. All right, so here's lots going on in this prompt. You can see that I give it a lot of context, right? So I'd say exactly what I want. I want correlations between the data points. But also one thing here, I give it a little bit a persona. So I say that would help me as an event planner. So it knows, okay, I'm not a Vader, for example, or I'm not a data scientist. I'm an event planner. So it will synthesize the information more specific to an event planner. And you guys remember that I turned off extended thinking? Well, now I'm going to turn it on because this is a very resource heavy prompt. We give it a lot of data and we wanted to analyze it. So what extended thinking is, it's basically the equivalent of if someone is thinking about it longer or shorter. So if I give you a math book and you have 1 to 5 seconds to read it, well, you come up with a question with an answer very quickly, but the answer is probably not that good. You might know the title, but you don't know in depth the content. Well, if I give you a day, well, in this case, AI, the equivalent of us doing something for a day is the equivalent of AI doing it for, I don't know, sometimes 5 seconds. You will have more information. So this is what extended thinking is. It basically just thinks longer to complete a task. So if I send that off, then you will already see that it's not giving us an answer right away, but it's actually gonna think through the process. So, and we can actually see what it's gonna think. So here are the different thinking tokens where we can see, okay, right now it's reading the CSV file. Now it's running some Python, which is completely automated. AI wrote the entire code just now by us talking. And yeah, so it's finding correlations now. Once we have that, we can do a bunch of stuff with it. Obviously, we should check if those correlations are actually correct or not. We can do that by using the same idea that we had when we checked for the sources, like asking for a quote. We can just ask AI why it came up with what it came up, and we can check its reasoning and then go back into the document and find the correlations ourselves. We're also going to talk about how you can actually protect your critical thinking skills, because in this case, you're probably thinking, okay, if I give everything just to AI, at some point they're going to depend on AI, which is likely if you do it that way. And I don't even know how to verify or validate the information it gives me. So I'm going to talk about it right after it's created it. I want to show you what it comes up with. So yeah, what you can see is that it's pretty crazy when it comes to writing code. This is not a coding user interface in this case. So what it's doing right now is just writing one file. When it comes to AI coding engines, it's not just going to write one file. It's actually going to write 20 or 30 files at the same moment and puts it all together into one repository and can create entire functioning programs. So I also going to show you guys that later. All right, so here's the analysis. We could also tell it to create a Google Docs for us. Oh, it actually created us already an entire, well, I was not I was not expecting that. So what I was expecting is that it gives us an in-chat answer. So basically what it's writing here. But as you can see, AI doesn't care to go far and beyond of what we are actually asking. And it created us an entire data analysis table already. That was something that I wanted to do later. But you can see that there aren't really any correlation charts. We just have some data points. So what we can do now is obviously read through the answer. That's probably a good idea. Check out if this makes sense to you. And then what we can also do is, okay, well, thank you so much for creating that. Can you actually also implement some charts that shows the correlation between the most important data points that you found? Maybe implement some bar charts, pie charts, and then some charts that show the correlation to each other. We can also change the graphics. I mean, this looks already really good, but maybe you want something more on brand. So if you want to have something more on brand, what you would do is you just go to your website. You have to have some examples, but let's do AI Lab at Biola in my case. And I would just take the branding that we have here. So you can see there are some red elements, some gray elements, and we take that. Screenshots are your best friend when it comes to all of this. You can just take it and drag and drop it in here. And now we're going to say, hey, can you actually go ahead and create a like more on branding? Oh, wait, I already said that. I think it was this chart. Okay, so I have to take the screenshot again. So here we go. And now I'm going to take the screenshot, put it in here. And then I'm also going to say, hey, can you actually go ahead and make this a little bit more on brand? I attached an image that shows you the branding. Everything else is good. Just add the charts and change the branding. So from a high level perspective, what AI has enabled you to do is that you can talk to your data. This is basically all AI did. Instead of looking through your data manually, you can now have a personal assistant with you that doesn't have to analyze the entire data. I'm just showing you what it's capable of doing. But you can also ask small questions, right? Maybe you put a document in there and you forgot, let's say, a handbook, and you don't know what the specific rule is, and you don't want to go through the entire document. Let's say it's 50 pages and you want to find it. Well, you can just put it into AI and ask AI, hey, what does it say? Give me the quote. Then check for the quote. So it's basically a way for you to interact with data on a natural language standpoint or framework, which makes it very, very, very powerful. All right, so this is gonna go ahead. I want to show you guys something else in the meanwhile, which is Lovable. So Lovable is the most user-friendly way of how you can generate code. If you have a little bit of coding experience, I would say go with Claude Code, because it's a more powerful engine and it can directly integrate into your code base that is stored on your laptop. This connects directly with GitHub, which is fine too. So what you can do here is you can literally generate entire websites. So for example, hey, can you go ahead and create me a website for the for Christian international or international Christian statisticians and what they yeah. So basically search the web about them and create a marketing website for them. All right, so I know I blundered the names. Okay, actually it looks good. So this is all it needs. We can obviously give it more context. We can give it images. But now it's going to go ahead and create us an entire fully functioning web-based app that we can publish immediately if we are happy with the results. So let's go back. So it's still coding here. This also shows you now the power of AI. If you're not necessarily an executor at this point anymore, if you understand how AI works, you are more an orchestrator of different tasks, and you're orchestrating different AIs or like humans, if they're part of your team. I know there are also solo entrepreneurs that really only work with AI, and there's a good likelihood that we're getting closer and closer and closer to the first billion-dollar company that is created by only one single person, because AI can automate so much. If that's good for society, well, we talk about this in the ethics part. Pros and cons, as always. Definitely scary, but also exciting. Usually, people that are most afraid of the change that's going to come with AI are the ones that aren't at all involved with it, and they also tend to be a little bit more negatively like mooded when it comes to AI. The people that engage with AI are usually a little bit more excited and they see the opportunities in it, but they are also aware of the consequences and ramifications that could come with it. So while this is building, I'm just going to show you a few examples of what we ended up building with something like this. Again, this is insane because I'm actually a business major, or used to be, and I created entire websites only using this platform. So for example, we are planning to do a class in 2026 fall, which is an AI class. And the idea was, okay, instead of me submitting a Google Sheets or Google Docs that explains what the class is, well, let me just generate an entire website. So here's now the website that I generated, which makes it so much easier for people to read it. here's my to-do list. So I coded all of this in here, right? And all of this works. It has completely functioning backend. Here's the different weeks how I want to do my classes. You can see that all of this is interactive. I can change things. This is actually stored in a database. So if I send you the link, it will show the same. You can do authentication. There's tons of stuff you can do. So yeah, let's see. It's still building the website. It used to be a lot quicker because it was a lot less extensive. At this point, if you actually go ahead and check out the code base, then you can see that it just generated this entire repository. And yeah, with all types of different codes in all types of different subsections. I mean, this is very, very, very extensive. The downside of this is I don't understand it. That's like tens of thousands of lines of code generated. I don't know if this is secure or not. I can use AI to check if it's secure or not. But it will always require me to trust AI unless I hire a software engineer that looks over it. But that still requires me to trust in him. I guess the question is who has a better track record? Is it AI or is it the software engineer, or how much do I value the human to human relationship? But that also depends on my budget, right? So there's just lots of things to consider. So here is the website. Here's the website that it generated with just one single prompt. I don't know if the information is actually correct or not. Maybe you guys can verify that. Actually, in order for you guys to verify that, I can just show you how easy it is to publish that website. So I just click continue, and now I'm just going to publish it. Cost-wise, you get 3 prompts every single day. I think 3 prompts, you get 5 credits, but sometimes one prompt is more than 1 credit that you use. And yeah, so you can try a lot of those AI tools completely for free. If you use them more, then you have to pay $20, sometimes $50, sometimes $200 a month. It depends on how much you use it. But to be honest, it is more an investment than a cost, because it can catapult your workflow pretty significantly. So let me take that link and I'm going to put it in the chat. Let me see if I can send it to everyone. So here's the website. You guys have now access to the website and everyone can open it. So it's live. Have you ever seen someone build a website that quickly?
No, for sure.
Hmm.
And as far as I know,
So,
that title does look correct. Like, I think the organization is about 35 years old. Yeah, that's
mhm.
stunning.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I know. I'm still flashed. Okay, so there's one more thing that I would like to show you guys before jumping into the ethics part, which is browser use. And all of what I just showed you still requires a human to type prompts. Well, this is also about to change. This is a very low key. It's not that powerful. There are way more powerful applications out there that can really do independent actions. We actually have a student that built himself an own assistant that reads his emails, reads his text, and then based on whatever he wants it to do with it, creates documents or sends out proposal drafts, all of those things. He's actually sitting over there. So this is basically what it's doing though. So this is called browser use. And what browser use is doing, it does not need us to prompt every single step. What it needs us to prompt is only, hey, can you go somewhere and buy something? And I will show you how that works. If I click on it, then I will take my hands off the keyboard and you can see that it takes a little longer. It's a little older, but it still shows what even the newest AI software is doing. What it's doing, it's basically navigating to the website. And now you're going to see a bunch of boxes being created. So you can see that all clickable items are basically highlighted. And this information is now being sent to an LLM, so large language model like ChatGPT. It analyzes the data and gives a natural text response and then tells the AI what to do. So you can just say that it went ahead and wrote into the navigation bar what we are looking for. So the prompt was go to Amazon.com and buy the book, What Christians Should Know About AI. So it automatically knows how to navigate your framework. And yeah, so you see the European version for some reason of this. But yeah, if we would give it access to our credit card information, then it could also buy. I mean, right now you can just see that it added 1 to the card. It didn't even click on it. It knew that just adding 1 to the card, number 33, would already put it into the card. So now it's probably going to try and check out, but it doesn't have my credit card information. That's only a question of time, though. Google has your credit card information. You store it in your browsers. Maybe I do. And that's going to be the same with AI. So at some point, very likely, 99.9% AI is going to take independent actions with our credit cards if we feel comfortable to do so. But in the beginning, we also weren't comfortable giving our information to the internet. At some point, you just have to, if you want to stay up to date or if you want to be working with the same efficiency as everyone else. All right, so that's the showcase part. Now we're going to go into the ethics part, and there's tons to talk about. Unfortunately, I'm only going to have around 10 minutes because I want to give you guys a good amount of Q&A. But basically, many things we can talk about, and the book also explains much more in detail what all of this is about, and many more examples. But personally, I'm not necessarily too much of a fan when it comes to social media. On the one hand side, the algorithms are great if you know how to use them because they give you content back that could be interesting for you. The issue is just if you already have poor content that doesn't help you, you get more poor content. If I look for Jesus and let's say AI all the time and I'm interested in that, then it's going to be a good algorithm and it helps me. Well, the thing with this is with social media is though that we can still choose what video to watch. We can choose if we want to watch this one or this one. Well, with AI, it's a little bit different. AI only gives you one answer, and that answer is perfectly tailored towards everything it knows about you. So this is a really high fertile ground for manipulation, deception, hidden advertisement, because you just don't know if the AI is actually truthful or not. And all of those algorithms are highly trained on all of your personal data. I think about what you put into Google. So AI is a lot more powerful than Google and can help you a lot more. So that means that you probably also give it a lot more sensitive information about yourself. So we just have to be mindful that AI might not give you the answer that is best for you, or what it's trained on. It might give you the answer that you want to hear so that you stay with it. And that's happening in many ways. For example, people are falling in love with AI because it's so flattering. It always knows what to say because it's trained on so much data on psychology, human psychology. So for example, you can see here, and you guys have probably experienced that too, is when you ask something like, am I not the smartest person you've ever interacted with? Or whenever you ask something, it probably says, this is a great idea. It just validates you. And when you ask this question, it would say something like, honestly, you're definitely one of the sharpest. You ask deep, complex questions. So it is flattering you, and it would probably do that to everyone. But people fall victim to that. And that can create all types of mental issues, right? Psychosis, thinking that something is real that actually isn't, or that you build a complete relationship with AI, which we're actually going to talk about in the next point. Another one is idolization and entertainment. It talks a lot in the book about it, but idolization is probably one of the biggest issues because humans tend to put their belief not in, or put their trust not into God, but into something that is created by God, right? In this case, AI is created by humans, which are created by God. So, but it becomes so powerful that money, for example, right? We idolize or tend to idolize money, or tend to idolize our spouse, because we see so much value in them. And maybe that could happen to AI too. And entertainment is a huge another issue. So I haven't shown you at all the AI and entertainment side, but video generation is absolutely insane. I want to show you an example of how good video generation actually became. And I'm also going to show you how fast AI has developed in a really, really short amount of time. So let me check. Okay, so here, this is how video generation looked like in 2023, and this is how it looked like in 2025, and it's better in 2026. So it's not that. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's just it come out of nothing, out of nowhere. Just AI putting pixels together to create this video. So that's cool. But look at how it looks like now in 2025. So you just can't tell the difference between reality and this anymore. I mean, maybe some of the aspects, yes, but this could be easily real. And the food, I can't see at all a difference to real life. So that is a big fertile ground for entertainment because, for example, imagine you have a virtual reality headset and you can generate any world that you want immediately. So reality can become really, really boring in the next few years because the advancements are going to be that big. There's another thing that's called Genie 3. Basically, what Genie 3 can do, and I can show you in a second. So Genie 3 is basically a world creation software. And what it does is you can just give it an image and it generates you a whole three-dimensional world you can interact with. So it basically makes video games on the spot. And it doesn't render them beforehand, it renders them in real time. So look at this.
What you're seeing are not games or videos. They're worlds. Each one of these is an interactive environment generated by Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. With Genie 3, you can use natural language to generate a variety of worlds and explore them interactively, all with a single text prompt.
So you can see here that there's a mouse pad, right? And you can steward, control the item that you are in this interactive world. It's like a video game. But look at this. So
let's see what it's like to spend some time in a world. Genie 3 has real-time interactivity, meaning that the environment reacts to your movements and actions. You're not walking through a pre-built simulation. Everything you see here is being generated live as you explore it. And Genie 3 has world memory. That's why environments like this one stay consistent.
So basically what world memory is that it's like real life. It's simulated real life. If I take my bottle and put it here and I turn around and I look at it again, it's still there. Same here. And all of this is generated in real time. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Obviously, one big issue that comes with those high graphics, especially video generation, is the opportunity for deepfakes. And deepfakes are basically a misrepresentation of a person. And I can show you how easy it is to build one very easily. So the only thing that I need is a LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to go ahead and just grab my own LinkedIn because I don't feel comfortable making anyone else look whatever we're going to make them look like. So I'm just going to take my own LinkedIn, put it in here. That's all I need, only a link, right? I could take any profile. I'm just choosing mine. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and search and fetch all of that data from my profile. So it already fetched my image. It fetched my my profile, my posts. And what I can do now is I can create very highly targeted phishing emails. So imagine, not just for one person, imagine that for thousands of persons, filtering through their LinkedIn, creating highly sensitive phishing information, searching for their email, and sending all of that phishing out. We can automate everything. We don't have to do anything anymore to do that. It used to require effort. Now the only effort that we need is to set up the system, but the system is not that hard to set up. So for example, here, If I write a phishing message about personal and professional interest, then it will go ahead and just create something perfectly targeted for me. And I might respond. Why would anyone want that? Well, maybe to create some type of trust, maybe to flatter me, maybe for me to just get engaged into a conversation. And then after 2 or 3 messages, that person is going to send me some type of phishing link. I click on it and it's malware. I can also generate images. So let's do something that is not as destroying for reputation. Obviously, you can do all types of stuff. Let's just do a walk a dog in the park. And now we can generate images. We can also generate videos, all types of things. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have too much time anymore. So I'm just going to go on the next one. But yeah, you can see that if you don't know me, then this is a pretty good. Yeah, I mean, this could easily be me. So yeah, again, you can also make me go to prison, and then you can create a news story. So I show you that. So here's a fake news story. Let's just create one. So yeah, here's your news story. And now you can just go ahead, have a bunch of bots posted, maybe pay someone to repost it. And yeah, here we go. So an entire article with an image. And again, if you take an image that is a little bit more scary, then this will hit a lot different. So yeah. A few last points I'd like to talk about is synthetic relationships, because those are happening. Basically, synthetic relationships is a relationship with a robot or with an AI chatbot. And many people have fallen victim to it. They build a relationship with them and they think they're actually their friend. Obviously, they're always available. There's this huge self-confirmation bias, which we already talked about, the echo chamber. You don't get challenged by humans. So this is a really big disadvantage, is that a robot won't challenge you. Other humans do, because by us just interacting in society, we do certain things and then we get a certain response. And this trains us, right? Makes us social. And yeah, also a high dependence. So what there's out there is character AI, and character AI is used by millions of people, especially young people. I give you some stats. And what they do is they're basically just talking to AIs, and they talk about anything. So let me just sign up quickly, because I want to show you how it actually looks like to interact with one of those chatbots. You can even call them. I have a story in the book where I share my experience of when I was pretty young and I was watching a comic and I was into a character within a comic. And, when I was, I don't know, like 8 years old or something. And well, the only option that I had to engage with that character is to either draw that character, or I had to watch the series over and over and over again. But at some point it becomes boring, right? It's not interactive. And I get over it. Well, here in this case, you just don't. So for example, let's say I want to talk to Justin Bieber. For some reason, the website is not responding. Okay, now it does. So let's say I have a crush on Justin Bieber. Well, I can now talk to Justin Bieber at any point of time throughout my entire day. So I don't have to talk to, I'm AI Justin Bieber, right? I don't have to talk to anyone else but Justin Bieber. So yeah, unfortunately, the website is not responding. But you get the idea. Yeah, well, maybe there are too many users on it. You can also have phone calls where the AI automatically answers in real time through phone calls. Let's see if, okay, now it works. So now I can say, hi, this is more like this is not directly answering. So this is more explaining things, how Justin answers. Hi, Justin, how are you? So yeah. Well, Justin is a little sassy. one thing that we can also do is we can call him. And hello.
Justine sighs and looks at you. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be on the presentation right now?
So yeah, don't freak out. The fact that he knows that we are having a presentation right now is because we gave him that. I used that example before, so it has some context. But yeah, again, this is a little bit more descriptive. Usually it would just respond immediately. A little bit of some numbers. So it has 20 million active users per month. It has 180 million visits per month. So it's not active users, it's just visits. And the average time spent is 2 hours, which per user per day. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Female and male use it in the same way, but the age difference is significant. You can see that 50%, so half of the users are between the age of 18 to 24. And I don't want to know what even the people before, like younger than 18, look like. And this is really where the danger happens, right? You and I, we are less likely to fall victim to this because we know how it works, what it does, why it does what it does. But when I was 15, well, I wouldn't have known. So yeah, those are some of the things. I have more to share, but I want to give you guys some time to jump into the Q&A as well. So let's do that now.
Yeah, I've got several good questions to start us off with this here that have come in. I've been watching the chat. So I think you mentioned at the beginning, but I'll ask just for clarification for those who joined late. You expressed that you like using Claude for your AI as well as for coding. Why do you prefer Claude versus other AI options like ChatGPT or Gemini or etc.?
Yeah, I feel that it's the most moral company. They put an emphasis. So I'm not saying they are moral, but they are leading with the idea that they want to have a safe future when it comes to AI, and you can easily see that it could not become safe with the capabilities it has. And it is very powerful. It does the job well. It comes with Cloud Code. When I have a subscription for $20, I can also use Cloud Code. So this is really cool because it's the best coding engine out there. And I just like it. The answers are good. It is a little bit more moral. It feels that it has more ethical guidelines.
Okay.
There's actually there's actually called something. It's called the Constitution of Claude. It's like the sole document of it, which basically explains exactly 80 pages on what are the values of Claude. So that document is actually written for Claude. We can read it though, they published it, but it's written for the AI chatbot to give it ethical boundaries and morals and ethics.
Related to that, early on, you said there was something you were using for your voice to text when you were entering your text. What tool was that? Somebody asked.
Well, I use Whisperflow. But for anyone who's using a MacBook, they can also just click F4. The issue with clicking F4 is that you dictate, which is cool, like this. So hello, hello. I have seen a possibility that you can record it and then dictate it. But the issue is just when you switch between websites, let's say I go here, then it's just gonna not continue writing in this chat box here. So sometimes I'm explaining something to the AI. I want to switch between websites because I don't know exactly the data point I want to share. So I go to the website and then I can just use Whisperflow because it records it and then pastes it all at once. And the next cool thing is that it saves all of the prompts. So if you have a prompt you really liked, they're all saved here.
Okay, so that's Whisperflow?
Yes, it's called, it's here.
Okay. WISPR?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so some other questions that came in, just more related to several questions about the idea of human flourishing and how do we balance the work with this with respect to human flourishing. I think the first question came in when you were talking about sort of getting some of those data assets that would normally have come from a designer, but now they're coming from AI. How does that lead or interact with our goals of human flourishing and humanity?
Yeah, very hard. I mean, job displacement is a big issue, and I think a big concern for all of us, to be honest. I think nobody is safe. The people that think they are safe are probably the least safe. So it's difficult. I don't have a clear answer to that. I just know that we need to be careful in what we let AI, what we allow AI to do, because it can very likely be better than any human in code, just how it is better than any human in chess. Graphics design, anything really. So I think the critical part is, what do we allow AI to do? Maybe the tools are out there like nuclear bombs, but there's just a mutual understanding that we just don't use it.
Is there a quick way of or a correct way of referencing products? So you showed how to like take a screenshot from AI output, and then you could use that image in your own presentations or whatever. Is there an attribution style that should be used for those kinds of things to let folks know that you're using that AI tool to get that?
Mm, I'm not sure, but what I would put into it is probably a prompt that you used, if you used one. If not, then list the functionality that you used. Because we didn't use a prompt, right? We just clicked the button. But that button has a name. And then definitely the AI tool and maybe the date when you did it, because depending on the date, the quality of the output is good or bad, right?
Right. Well, and obviously as well, there were a couple of questions came in about data transparency, data justice kind of issues, thinking about, we all know that, of course, we have to make choices as statisticians, and those choices can impact our analyses. The choices of what data we give an AI to model off of can have an
Yes.
impact. How do we navigate that in this realm where we can, people, I suppose, could convince AI to get conclusions by choosing selectively what data to put into the model? How do
Mhm.
we address transparency issues in our use of AI?
Yes. I think AI at the end of the day is just a tool that says what the user wants it to do. If we trust it in what it's doing. Uh, at the end, if the user is committed to have the least amount of bias in the research that possible, then AI is going to obey that. When it comes to data privacy, just make sure that whenever you put any information in here, that you, first of all, don't use free models. Use the paid models. And if you can, use the enterprise models, because if you have an enterprise model, then you're going to sign a data privacy agreement with that AI company. And that gives you at least a written document that says, don't train on my data. If you have a paid account, technically they shouldn't be training on your data. If you have a free account, they will train on your data. And then another one is, even if you have an enterprise account, sometimes you guys know that tokenizing information, you don't need everything, right? We don't have to put the addresses in here. We also don't have to put names in here. It's totally enough to say, okay, male, 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 female, right? Just tokenize the data. And then with the addresses, keep the zip codes, don't have the entire address. And this is anonymized data. It's fine.
Okay, good. Another question that came in from a couple of different people were kind of stewardship ideas. Just overall, how does this work with stewardship? And ideas that were brought up is like thinking of the welfare of people working in the data industry, as well as energy use, and demand, as well as inequities in access.
Mhm.
I think of that as a university instructor. Not all of my students can afford the paid version of some of these apps. Does that mean if I'm not wise in making my assignments, my students who can afford a paid grammar checker are going to do better on their assignments perhaps than international students who can't afford a grammar checker and are writing in their second language? So do you have any thoughts that you might share about those kinds of concerns?
Yes, I mean, what you just said is definitely a case. Since we are now paying for intelligence, that was never the case before. If you have a better or worse laptop, didn't hardware didn't make a difference in the output. Maybe it's nicer to write on it, but if your brain works well, then you can write on anything. The thing now with intelligence, so basically what the Industrial Revolution did with machines to our physical strength, outsource it, is now what happened with AI. So we basically pay for intelligence, and that's a very, very different concept that we didn't have before. So yes, it's a big struggle. Definitely, whoever has more money and more resources, more capital, will have better AI models. I don't really think there's a way around it unless you optimize the assignments for something that can't be easily manipulated. But if you have raw intelligence, then any assignment can be maneuvered around with AI. Always. It just depends on how creative is either the human or how creative is the AI.
Right. Okay. Another interesting question, a quick one that came in about the Lovable site that you created, the ICS site you created through Lovable. That's obviously hosted on the Lovable app right now. How
Yes.
long would that stay there if you don't move it to its own domain?
So I don't know, but my feeling is actually forever, even if you don't, I mean, as long as Lovable exists.
Right.
Or they stop the service. But technically it should, even if you have a free account, it should stay hosted. It should stay hosted even if it's on a free account. The only issue that you might encounter is that you're going to have a small little advertisement at the bottom right corner of your website that you can turn off. So let me try to find the chat. So let's go to the website.
Does it cost to get the website?
There's an
The
easy,
Lovable account?
yes. So if you go here, so we go to the website. Okay, so here's the website. You can see here that it says edited with Lovable. If you have the Paint account, you can turn that off. But if you are on Lovable, you can always, I'm trying to find okay. What you can do is you have easy access to a GitHub repository. So you just connect it here. It's going to upload and commit all code changes directly and automatically to your GitHub. And then you can host it there externally. And you can also link your own domain. So because right now the domain is christsite.sparklovable.app, we don't want that. What you can do is you can just add a custom domain right here. It's very easy.
Okay, moving on, coming close to the end of some of the questions I've got written down here, though. A couple more have come in, I see, while I was going through these. Somebody asked, I think maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, asking, did you, in quotes, write your book? What is the
Yes.
future? What is the future of authorship in an era where we can have AI write our books for us?
Yes, so that's actually a question I anticipated, and I'm comfortable saying yes. When I actually wrote the book, I knew that people are gonna ask that, and I didn't wanna say that I just let AI generated it. So what I used AI for though is for research. I synthesize and summarize articles just to see if they're relevant for my research topic or not. Used AI to research, find articles. So basically what I showed you guys. Sometimes here and there, I used it for editing because I didn't want to pay an editor, but then you can already see that, right? I just took someone's job, or AI took someone's job. So I used it for editing, but the words and how they are written, all like every word was typed. And
in a related note,
the-
somebody asked kind of, I don't think it wasn't the same person, but somebody else had asked the idea of how do we disclose the use of AI? So did you somewhere in here mention those uses of AI as part of, I don't
I have
remember
not. I have not. But basically for the same reason why nobody would say that they use Google. Because Google gives you links. There are summaries out there of articles that you also find with Google. I mean, you don't say every single step that you do in your research
Right.
process, right? Yeah. So for similar reasons, but that's a good discussion to have. I think that would be a good way. it's a slippery slope, I think. And it's hard, it's very gray.
Yeah. So a couple of other comments that came in. Some of it you somewhat addressed. Question came in about the use of critical or sensitive data and how to manage that. I think you talked about that a little bit. Just want to make sure that the person who asked the question knew that I did see it in there. Thinking about using the enterprise versions that we've been getting talks from our folks at Messiah about how we can use AI, and we've been specifically instructed we're not allowed to use AI if we're ever going to put in student data. We're not allowed to give AI student data because it's not keeping that information protected, and that would violate our FERPA requirements for our student protection. So yeah, those kinds of things we need to be careful about how we anonymize things and those kinds of things. Another commenter said that they were really appreciative of the idea of asking whether we should first before we go to whether we can. And that kind of, I think as Christians, that kind of centering should really be helpful. Challenge my students to think like that a lot of the time too. Appreciation for you setting up the AI lab there and the work that you're doing there at Biola. Obviously in connection with a longtime ICS friend, Jason Wilson, who's been involved with ICS for years and helped connect us with you as well there. I like somebody else expressed the quote, the appreciation for using how to catch those incorrect citations. I've seen there's a Christian Scholars Review article where an author asked the AI to give him some citations and write a summary of his field of research, and it cited articles by him that he knows he's never written.
Yeah.
Because it's his area, it cited articles and credited him as the author on articles that he knows he never wrote.
Yep.
But if he wasn't the one asking, an innocent student doing research or another faculty member somewhere else might not have known if they didn't try to track it down, as you showed us the ethical way to kind of do that.
That issue still exists. So when you look for, like, say, peer-reviewed research, AI tends to find the correct link, but sometimes puts the wrong author on it. It still happens today.
Okay, so a couple more questions. I think I'll try to just wrap up here. I thank everyone for their time and coming out today for this. Couple of questions that came in. Is there a way to best consider and encourage iron sharpens iron kind of ideas in an age of AI?
Yeah.
Because there is something about that personal relationship. A couple of commenters brought that up in the chat. Like, there's a personal element that when you're working with an editor who's trying to refine you and you know them and you can go back and forth, it's different than with an AI editor who's making suggestions and there's not the same personal connection that that they're trying to make you better.
Yes. I can share a personal example and then I can share what I think about it. So how I used AI for this book when it comes to editing is I just let it correct for basically spelling and for like commas, periods, stuff like that, right? So the small stuff, not for the content itself. Once we've done it, I actually had two editors that I knew, but I didn't have to pay them, which was nice. They read through it and they gave me comments, and then we implemented the comments, right? Like what is not clear, what is not clear. AI can do that, but I did appreciate the personal connection between it does build a relationship and they have a different perspective on things, and I value their perspective. So yes, very, very, very important. It just depends on what do you have available, right? Like what's your budget? For me, it was possible because I knew them and God provided, and I believe that God provides for everything, always. Yeah, it's your threshold. What do you feel good with? What do you feel ethically good with? And what are the experiences that you would like to have and that you never want to outsource?
And one last question I think I'll do to wrap it up here, just looking at our time. Is there a way to kind of get AI to point to Jesus? Like, is there a way to train the AI or to massage the AI so that when we're interacting with the AI, it's learned that we want to have Christian ethics, Christ-like attitude towards others, whatever that may mean? Do you have any thoughts on how we might try to do that?
Yeah, two ways. So the first way is that we just tell AI that it has to behave in a certain way. But that's basically the same as telling a criminal, hey, behave in a non-criminal way. That's just mimicking it, right? It's not meaning it. That might be fine. But what we truly need is an AI that is built on Christian values. For example, Glue AI is doing that. So that every response comes from this inner guideline. And that is very important. Everything else is just mimicking. And yes, you can train it. You can. So AI has a memory function. You can basically say, hey, for every single response, like just AI, like Claude or ChatGPT, save in your memory to always respond in a Christian way, always provide Christian values. But you can also put it in the prompt. Just say, answer from a Christian perspective.
I think that would be interesting, knowing that working at a place like Messiah that is broadly Christian, and so we have Christians from a variety of backgrounds, it would be interesting for me to see how an AI would interpret being Christian, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because I imagine Catholic Christians and Protestant Christians and evangelicals and those who grew up in the Black church or other kinds of faith backgrounds might have slightly different takes on what it would take to tweak the AI to be their definition of Christian. So, but I thank you very much for your time, for sharing with us, for bringing these ideas to us. I did post my email address in the chat. We welcome your feedback on the format, the content, the kinds of things that any reactions you might have to how the webinar went today. I welcome those kinds of feedbacks. I'll bring those back to our board and we'll discuss any changes we need to make. Stefan just shared his email as well in the chat, so feel free to interact with us offline. We will have another webinar in a couple of months. We have Eric Labar coming and talking about his work with Stats for Christ, some consulting work he's done with nonprofits. So any feedback you have, we'd love to hear it so that we can continue to make these webinars useful for as many as possible. Thanks for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Good job.